Sounds great. Thanks, Deva and Alice, for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Sarika Tyagi. I'm a product leader at Amazon. While I've been with Amazon for 3 years, I have over 18 years of experience building products in corporations as well as an entrepreneur. If you don't mind sharing the screen, Alice. The next slide, please. So I would like to actually walk the audience through my product journey, which will help the audience kind of understand the relevance and the experience of how I actually build the framework that I'll be discussing today. So as you can look through my journey, I've co-founded 2 startups. My first startup was Scarlet Fresh Shoe, which is my side gig right now. Where I built instant shoe repair and foot pain relief solutions for women's dress shoes. So physical products selling directly to customers. My second startup was My 22 BMI in healthcare space, where I built technology product and offered health consulting services to customers directly, as well as to businesses. So more on the digital product and consulting services for B2B and B2C. I've also had work for several large companies, 2 of them EMC Systems and Cisco Systems, where I worked on building internal infrastructure products. So, the products that actually get consumed within the company, either by the employees or as a platform service. I also work for Cameron, which is an oil and gas company, where I built this large, massive oil processing equipments, physical products that were sold to B2B businesses like Shell and Chevron. And finally, at Capital One and Amazon, I've been working on digital products, which are catered direct to customers, and at Amazon also catering to businesses, which is the sellers working for Amazon. So over the last 18 years, I've had the fortune of working across 6 industries, across different types of products and distribution segments. Next slide, please. Which is what allows me to bring my experience together today and walk you through my mental model around launching products. So, and then after that, would be discussing a framework to think about product launch strategy across different segments, like, whether you're selling it to directly to customers, B2C, or as a business, you're selling to other businesses, which is B2B, and or you're just building products which are getting consumed within the organization or within your company, and also, of course, service products. And finally, having done, both, like having worked at as an entrepreneur as well as in corporations, I'll discuss my experience of launching products in 2 different setups. So what does launching a product really mean? A product launch is definitely a very well coordinated effort with all the stakeholders that you work with. So, your engineering, your marketing, your research team, your product, and your sales teams. All these people who are working together to really make this concept, bring it into reality, you all work together. However, launching a product is often looked as a sequential step to product development. So, the product development team will go ahead, they'll design, they'll develop, and then they'll be like, okay, it's ready, go ahead and launch it. However, this leads to an increased failure potential on the product. Why? Because when you're developing a product, it is extremely important to think about your product launch strategy, which means who is really going to consume your product? And and how should you start reaching out and creating that awareness of your product while it's still in the development phases? It is also not just important to bring awareness and education of your product, but also the value it brings to the customers. It is equally important to engage or allow your customers to engage with your product before you expect them to, buy your product. So, in form of either you're offering free trials or you're giving demos right before you have launched it, or you're offering in terms of, free return guarantees or easy returns, so that the customers can be more confident about the product and be more open to kind of trying it out or evaluating it. And above all, no launch is complete without the right success metrics. It is important to know what is your North Star metric. What are you going to base your success or failure once you have launched your product? Next slide, please. So how and where do you begin your launch journey? Launching a product is, very much like an art. No amount of preparation you put in can guarantee that you will have a successful launch. However, if you plan right and plan ahead, then it can certainly increase the probability of that success. So building the right product in today's world, I would say for your target customers, is a known table stake. That's something that's expected. You have to deliver to that. But articulating the value it brings to the customers is equally important, if not more, because the knowledge of your product and how it can help, it's really important for customer to really even consider whether they are willing to evaluate this product for themselves or not. The product launch journey, it shouldn't really start when the product development has completed, like we were just discussing. Instead, it really should begin at the time when you're doing your product design and development. As a product manager or a product marketing manager, whatever role you are playing, whoever is actually responsible for bringing the product to customer, it is also product design phase is also a great opportunity for you to come and influence how this product gets built and what kind of capabilities get introduced on this product. So, you might think, how do you know what your customers want? Of course, given that, as a product manager, you're the whole ideation phase of your product development, this whole aspect is taken care of. But as a product marketing manager or just the product manager responsible for bringing in this product to the customers, how do you build that perspective of, what your customers want? So there are two ways. If this is a brand new product, leverage the generative research that your designer or the researcher has conducted to really reach out to your target market segment and understand what the customer is looking for. And in case of existing products is relatively easier, because then, there is a lot of data. You have your previous launch experience, you have your customer feedback, either through complaints or tickets or just, in the digital world, through reviews or in any other format that your product is made available to your customers. So leverage all of that information, your data, before you, think or start planning your launch strategy. The beauty is that all these rules, they apply to whether the product is service product or a physical product or a digital product, or even a pilot that you're launching to your customers. Does not matter what kind of a product it is and how you are bringing this product to your customers. All these concepts that we'll talk about, they are applicable irrespective. Next slide, please. So let's talk about, actually the slide before, sorry. Yes, thank you. So let's talk about what does the framework of launching your strategy look like. It's to me, it's an 8-step process. And it starts with really identifying and finding your target customers. Now, once again, this is an overlapping step with your product design and product ideation as you're kind of going through a product development phase. And hence I say that a product launch is not a sequential step to your product development. It is an overlapping step to your product design and development process. So if this process is already done by your product manager or whoever is doing the development, then this step is all about kind of understanding who your target market or target customers are identified as. So here you start with understanding your customers, right? So who do you want to target? Which marketplace you want to launch? Is it a specific area in a specific country? Is it with just a specific group of customers that you want to bring your product to? For example, if you're launching a product for pets, you want to find the people who actually own a pet to market your product, which would be very targeted, very segmented, to specific customers. And then depending on your launch goal, your target audience may be driven by the size of the market. So let's say if your launch goal is, I want to just test out my product first in a very small setup and I want to iterate it. More so on a digital product side, then you would actually identify a specific size of the market and target market, and you could launch it. The other aspect of how could you find where your target customers is, you can look at customers with biggest pain point. Like I mentioned, if you're selling a product for pets, you could have different segments where you could actually identify who your target market customers could be. One could be people who are actually already own pets. Another could be who are shopping for pets, who actually go to pet stores and other places. So it is very important to understand, based on your launch goal, which is the target segment that you're looking at. Or finally, you may even say, I'm going to pick the target segment, which is easy to access. If you are selling a product which can be sold directly to customers as well as to businesses, to customers, given the long sales cycles for businesses, you might actually decide, I'm going to launch it directly to customers first. Get quick market feedback, something that Wayfair did, online furniture store, right? They first went directly to customers, they created a niche in that space, and then they expanded into a B2B space. So once you've identified your customers or target segment rather, and figured out how are you going to find them, your next step is going to be understanding or defining your value proposition for them. So the way you would do that is, it's very important to kind of understand your customers' pain points. What journey do they go through as they are, walking through this process today? The goal of launching any product, if you think about it, is, solving a customer's problem in a better, faster, or cheaper way. Every situation that you will actually go and talk to a customer about a pain point, you will realize that customers are doing something today. Either there is a competing product that exists, or the customers are using a workaround and getting their work done somehow. Your job is to understand, how does this product that you're going to bring to your customers, does it either better or faster, saves time for your customers, or saves money for your customers? That's really where your value proposition, that will garner the attention of your customers will come from. I have so as an example, I would say that, Amazon sells clothes. Now, a customer could very easily go to a store, try on their clothes, and decide, pay for the clothes that they actually choose to buy. However, what Amazon did was, they offered a program called Prime Wardrobe, through which you can actually buy clothes online at, from the confines of your house, not pay for those clothes for up to 7 days. Amazon will ship those clothes to you. You try at home. You keep whatever you want to keep. The rest of the stuff you return. And you only get paid for the money for the clothes that you actually keep. In some ways, if you see, what Amazon did was added more flexibility, saved time for customers, did not charge them extra money, and made the process easier for the customers. And hence, the Prime Wardrobe is actually a very successful product, turned out to be a successful product for Amazon. So in this step, overall, you look for, your current solutions, your competing products, how your product is going to deliver value to your customers. Once you've done that, your step number 3 is, how are you going to create awareness and education for your customers? So, now that we know what my customers do today, what is really bothering our customers, this step is where you actually define that value. How do we make sure that, the value that you have defined, now you are communicating to your customers, you're bringing that awareness to your customers so that they know that such a product exists and that they should actually consider or evaluating that product for their usage. A bunch of different strategies here, pre-marketing campaigns are, pre-launch campaigns are run. Sometimes press releases could be made. Pre-order sales events are done, more offline targeted, like for, B2C customers, Tupperware events could be done where, people get together. And something I did very heavily on Scarlet Fresh Shoe was I launched this little small Tupperware parties with women where they would come, we would have some snacks, and then, people would actually try out the products on their shoes and then take them for free. Some samples around, and then they could share it further out. So it's just different ways of testing your product, as well as just seeing your customers use your product in front of you, which is the best gift that you can get as a product developer, because you can see what kind of additional pain points or opportunities for improvement would exist in your product. The next step after that would be to define your success metrics. Like I described earlier as well, no launch is going to be complete without knowing whether, what's going to make this a success or a failure. How do you know, what should be that metric? And again, it really depends on what your goals are. So, if you're launching a product within a large organization, then, you'll most likely get those goals top down. If you are in a startup space and you're trying to launch a product, you will probably have that, in discussions with your investors, or, do you want to really, or sometimes even your product will define that. For example, at my 22 BMI, it was, the success of that product would have come when no matter how many customers actually adopted it, but we wanted stickiness with the customers, which means I wanted customers to come to the app and, it offered custom meal solutions for customers. So I wanted customers to come every day, enter that information of what they were eating, or, come and look for, how much would be the calorie count if they ate a certain product, and so forth. So a certain item, food item, and so forth. So stickiness was super important. So for us, the North Star metric was retention versus, and again, for example, at Scarlet Fresh Shoe, it was more about, I needed adoption. I needed more customers to buy. And of course, I needed the same customers to come and buy the products. But these are physical products on your shoes. You have to wear them off. You use them, you wear them off, and then you buy new products. So my bigger North Star metric there was, I needed to increase adoption. I needed more and more and more customers to come and buy it. So it's very important to kind of think about those success metrics before you launch it. Next slide, please. Step number 5 is, defining your marketing attributes. So, what is the price? At what price are you going to sell your product? How are you going to make this product available to your customers? What is your product going to stand as? Is it a standalone product? Is it, does it associate with a certain brand? So for example, if you're launching a product internal, like, an infrastructure product, which is a platform product, which is going to be consumed by other teams within your organization. So are you going to associate it with your team, with a certain specific organization, so that, it becomes well known to all the other teams, and they are able to kind of, find out which team, and your product discovery becomes easier essentially. So this is really the step where you will build your financial model to define your pricing. You will find out what channels, again, you're bringing your product out to, and think think very deeply about your branding, because while your pricing is something that you can always experiment with, your channels are the most flexible. You can always kind of think about different channels and where you will bring out to, but your branding is something that requires a lot of attention to detail before your launch, because you want your customers to start associating you from day one. If you keep changing or evolving your branding very frequently, then you fail to build that association with the customer. And it's like, you have to continuously build that association, be in front of your customers with your brand again and again, so that it becomes more natural for your customer to think about your product. So that's why branding is very important early on in the process. Step number 6 is a roadmap for product launch. Now, this is a topic in itself. It's a very tactical execution step. Here, essentially, what you're talking about is whether if it's your digital product, then you're working very closely with your engineering and your testing teams, your marketing teams, to make sure that you've kind of identified all your launch activities in terms of testing your product, making sure if it's a global launch, you're making sure all your global launch requirements have been taken into consideration, your translations for any digital product that you may be launching, and all of those different standard operating procedures have been clearly defined for your customer service. If this is going to be a controversial product, you want to make sure your PR strategy is all lined up, and you have the FAQs in terms of your questions that you're going to how you're going to respond in certain situations. They're all landed and all tied up. You also at this point want to make sure that there is already some early product or positive feedback that you've collected from customers. You're combining that alongside. Hopefully the official launch is not the first time that your products are seeing, or your customers are seeing your product. And that's why, launch is almost like a process in itself. It's not an event. You want to make sure that as you're launching your product, you're bringing either a prototype or, your mocks or some form, you're bringing your product out to your customers at different points, so that it's not the first time that your customers are seeing after launch. Because like I was describing in step 5, building that association with your customers on your product is very important, and it's a time-consuming task. So you would have seen like the pre-launch marketing campaigns. That's the reason why they do that, because you want to make sure that your customers are constantly seeing that product till the day the product is launched, because after that, then they are ready to make a purchase if they are the relevant or the right customers for it. So yeah, in this process, you'll be taking care of all those tactical steps pretty much in a checklist format that you would make sure that it gets done. Finally, you would conduct a go no go before launch. Now, this is this can be a very product dependent step. Like if this has been an agile product, a digital product, hopefully your designs were complete, they were approved, and then you built your product. However, there could be in certain cases where the product is a very complex, spanning across multiple organizations, whether it's digital or physical. You always want to have a decision meeting to say, is your product ready to be scaled out to the larger population? And finally, you will launch and measure success. So, you'll measure your product launch, however your customers are behaving, or, against your launch metric that you defined earlier. Next step, please. So your launch strategy framework, it applies to all types of products: physical product, digital product, service products. You're launching features on a product, you're launching different experiences, or whether it's just services that you're bringing to your customers. Here we will discuss, how to work through or think through a launch strategy for each type of product. And depending on the the distribution channel that you're launching it against. So whether you're bringing this either of these products directly to customers or to businesses, or just for internal consumption as a platform. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, to the left, you will see the slide will build up with 8 steps that we just went through on, what would make up your product launch strategy. And through each of the columns, you will see the distribution, product distribution segments. So whether it's going to customers, businesses, or internal. So as you can see in the first step, the identification of target customers. If it's a B2C, then you are, your customer personas, you are identifying your customer personas, their buying patterns, your demographics, their pain points. But if you're selling it to a business, then now you're not necessarily looking at your customer persona, but more so as your company persona. How big is the company? What are the strategic plans? What are the strategic investments look like? What are the objectives and goals for a specific year, next 3 years, and so forth. But when it comes to infrastructure products, you want to make sure that you are identifying, if you're building a platform, which other teams in the company would become your customers, or who would be able to consume your product. Are there specific job families that would consume it? Are you clear on what their job or team objectives and goals are? Because you don't want to just build a product and then believe somebody would be sitting out there interested in using your product. You want to make sure right in the beginning, you've started working with those teams, with those people to ensure that when your product is ready, you'll have a consumption, a team consuming it. But when it comes to value proposition definition, as you see, it doesn't matter what type of products or distribution segment it is. You're always identifying your customers' pain points. You're always looking at your competitor landscape, the competitor products available, and you're articulating, no matter whether it's to customers directly or businesses or teams, you always need to articulate the value that your product will offer to them so that your customers can understand why they should either buy it or use it. Next slide, please. The third element is educating your customers. If it's a B2C, then you'd be writing blogs, you could be doing social media pages for user engagement, product, or creating that awareness. Google Ads, SEO, maybe on your website creation. But when it comes to B2B product creating awareness, you could go to conferences like sponsored booths, industry journals, share demos, or go on like this whole road shows that we can do on our products or on the designs. And infrastructural products would be more like making sure you're engaging with your stakeholders at regular intervals and having or doing this leadership updates so that you can keep your customers engaged and stay on their roadmap so they're ready to consume it when you are ready to deliver. The fourth one is the North Star metrics. As you can see, it doesn't matter what type of product it is. You will either have an adoption, so how many new customers are taking or consuming your product or buying it, versus retention, how many customers are coming back. Or it could be product quality, like customer satisfaction. What % of customers are happy with your product? Or you could just be launching a pilot. If you're like in oil and gas, I remember just launching a pilot in a big company would have been a great launch. So, that can become like a snowballing effect for further expansion. Next slide, please. The next is your marketing attributes. From a pricing standpoint, once again, you could have multiple product variations. And for those, you could have different pricing, both whether you're selling it for B2C or B2B. However, for infrastructure product, you will most likely not have a pricing, but more so, an engagement model with them. And when it comes to having like marketing attributes like placement, how do you bring your product to your customers? A direct to customer may be on an e-commerce site, offline stores, but selling it to businesses, You may have purchasing groups, your sales teams, or even e-commerce site like, Amazon Business or Wayfair online furniture to businesses and so forth. And infrastructural products, again, they would be available either on your cloud or your company platforms. Next slide. Finally, you'll have your launch checklist, no matter what type of product you have, whether it's a physical product or a digital product or just a service. You will always have these last steps to make sure that you've checked off every open item that you needed to work on, like we've already discussed earlier. And finally, your post-launch support. Once again, you're going to always measure your launch success against your North Star metric you have defined earlier. Next slide, please. Finally, one of the questions that I have I've personally asked myself and experienced myself is, when you're launching a product, how is it different for launching in a large organization versus working in a startup? And what you see up here, it's a work in progress. This framework, it continues to evolve. I think of something and I kind of keep adding on it, or I talk to people and I kind of add on top of it. However, there are a couple of areas. The way I kind of think about it is, when you think about it, like I have launched products like a physical product with Scarlett, digital product and services with My22BMI, both entrepreneurial ventures. And then I have also launched like a greenfield 0 to 1 products, digital products within Amazon, a product within Amazon, and several products across large organizations. And I measure this against like 4 different pillars. The first is funding. So if you think about large organizations, the way the funding works is either you will have ring-fenced resources, like these are the resources you get to work on your particular product. You present your business case, gets leadership approved, and then you get resources allocated, and that's it. You work with them. Of course, things evolve, things change, but getting funding is funding is there. You just have to prepare a business case to get that. However, with startups is different. It's much harder to secure that external funding, or even additional funding if you were to run out. Like something that happened with us at My22BMI, we had we already had launched our product with our customers. And the feedback we got from our investors was, it's not enough. You need to get more, you need to tweak your business model. You need to get more traction with your customers before you can raise any funds. And which is what led to its folding, which is something that you wouldn't necessarily see if you were working in large organizations as much as in startups. So funds is also one of very, very critical reasons why startups don't work, or the products don't really make it past early stage, early launch phase. The second aspect is expertise. This, it's a very underrated aspect, but if you think about it, in large organizations, if you're already funded, you're going to have a designer available. You may have researchers available. You may have finance to help you with the financial modeling of your product. You may have test team available. If nothing else, then you'll at least have these experts available in your company where you can, reach out to them via office hours or, for consulting. So you're not really learning everything on your own. Whereas in startups, you are pretty much, you're absolutely wearing multiple hats in launching your product. You may have to rely on external consulting. And a lot of times what happens with that is you lose the context. Consulting, they may not really have the context of your industry, your space, your product, your customers. And, that's where some of the failure points kind of get introduced. So that's another aspect. The third is the success measurement. Like I was just describing that, in large organizations, what will happen is if you've directional success, if you've gotten some directional success with your product, it's highly likely that you're able to anticipate what this product, success would look like based on your early successes, and you may be able to secure more resources, continued funding to keep going, which is not the case in startups. If you're out of funds, if you're out of resources, and you don't have the right traction that generates enough attention from your investors, it's a fold, no matter how good your product is, no matter how happy your customers are with the early launch. And finally, it's the professional impact. This is one place where I see that in startups, it's huge risk, high risk, but high rewards. If it works out, you get to really scale, you get to expand it, you get to see bigger jump into taking your product from really 0 to truly 1. In larger organizations, it's less likely. Mostly people if I think about like Amazon or Capital One or some of these large companies, you're typically, it's not very true for every product manager to be working on 0 to 1 products. They're typically either experiences or parts, launches, features of a particular product. So it's a lower risk and hence it's lower reward in terms of how much you get to kind of grow with the product and within yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of see it. Would love to hear more thoughts from people if you have questions around these frameworks. The way I look at these frameworks they're always work in progress, and I love to kind of hear the inputs and keep building on them. That's all for what I had to present. I'm happy to open up for questions now.
Thank you, Sarika. That was so insightful. Thank you for sharing all your experience and insight in this short 30-minute kind of presentation. I'll open up for questions. I think for folks who are in the audience, if you want to ask questions, you can ask through the Q&A. General, I think I see a couple of questions already there, but please feel free to ask. And then I will make sure that I kind of replay those questions. But we also got some questions from the audience prior to this particular webinar, so we will also make sure that we discuss those. So first question I see, will the recording be shared? Yes. So I think once the webinar is over, we will record it, edit it, and be published in the Products.com website. So you should be able to see that. So recording along with the slides of the recording will be shared. Okay. So the question, I'm sorry, Jim, you can actually see the questions as well. It's from Sheila. Curious about best pre-launch activities for, you mentioned blog and press release, social media, like which social channels and methods?
Yeah, that's a pretty loaded question, I would say. Once again, as you may have seen through the framework that I brought, every product distribution segment is going to have different strategies. So I'm going to assume or I'm going to elaborate a little bit more based on my experiences. When I was launching Scarlett, which is once again a B2C, so I was selling it directly to customers, and it was a physical product. So my every time when you start thinking about, okay, I'm selling directly to customers, social media becomes extremely important. In fact, I would say that the time, so things like blogs, those were actually the most popular ones. I used to do social media ads. I used to do Pinterest. I used to do Facebook ads. Google ads. I was selling on Amazon as well. That's where I started. So I did Amazon ads. A lot of those, I had SEO, which I had built on my website. I was also doing, expanding that into offline marketing, which is where I also built an offline marketing channel there. But I think long story short, the way I would think about is if you're selling it directly to the customers, then you have to be out there the way you have to figure out where are your customers sitting. And really you work backwards from that, like everything, and it sounds cliche here, but everything starts working backwards from where your customers are. If your customers are spending a lot of time on that phone, doing Facebook and Instagram and Snap and all those things, then that's where you need to be out there. You need to come in front of the customers. If there are certain blogs which are relevant to your product, like if you are thinking, like I was mentioning, right, the pet store example. If your product is more like for your pets, then you want to really work backwards and see what is the most probable locations. What are those locations where I can actually find my customers? You could say maybe animal shelters, pet stores. Maybe there are websites where where people discuss pets. I don't have a pet myself, so I don't know, but I love pets, so I hence the example. But think about where are the places where you would find them, and then figure out channels based on the most probable of those.
Awesome. Thank you. I think there was a comment, maybe TikTok. I said, like, why not? Yeah, if your customers are actually in TikTok,
create videos.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the other things I wanted to add is we created a YouTube video for Scarlett. And I didn't necessarily see a lot of traction early on, but over the years, I mean, I have people who have reached out to me on my YouTube channel, even like on our website, saying that, hey, we found this very helpful, found the video very helpful. So I think it's about really looking, again, at the end of the day, look at all those places and figure out ways how everyone else, what is the best way to be in front of those customers.
Absolutely. I'll throw out a question, I think that was sent to me before this webinar. So from your experience or what you have seen, what are some of the primary reasons why product launch kind of fails within the first year?
Yeah. Once again, would depend on whether you're in a startup, you're talking about a startup, or you are in large organization. Also depending on the products like segments of how you're bringing your product to the customers. But I'll stick very close just to the product itself. I think if you go back to the product launch strategy that we talked about, literally you follow through all of those steps, and you miss one step, and that will introduce and increase the probability of that failure. And I'll tell you why. I mean, if you think about it from a big picture perspective, really, when do you buy a product as a customer? For me, I buy a product when I buy something new when my existing solution is not working for me. But I am also overloaded with information. I am overloaded with my own life, with my own personal, professional, all kinds of commitments. So I am only getting attracted, or I'm only getting attention to the products where somebody is actually laying the benefits of a new product in front of me. Like if you go to Facebook, you search for something, a retargeting ad comes to you. And then it comes to you again the next day, it comes to you again the next day, and the fourth day, and the fifth day. And by fifth day, you think it's worth for you to at least look at it, because you've created that association with your product. So I think all of those elements, if you don't get in front of your customers, first of all, if you don't create a convincing message for your customers that this product is designed for you, then I'm not getting convinced and I'm not getting that attention. Second, if you don't bring that message in front of me, I'm not getting that message, and hence I'm not buying it. And third, if you don't know what you are trying to, what kind of metrics you're trying to get from this product, not have your success metric, you don't know what kind of actions as a product launch person you need to take. For example, I launched it. My goal was I wanted more adoption, and I'm not getting adoption. But I don't know that I was looking to get adoption. Then I don't know what to improve. But if I'm not getting adoption and I know I wanted adoption, then what I would do is I will figure out more channels to reach out to customer. I'll figure out a tweaked messaging for my customers. So product launch is really, it's a very intuitive process. As long as we follow that process and we make sure our customers are communicated and we have thought through what we are bringing to them, I think, and of course, like I had mentioned, your product has to fulfill the basic needs of solving your customer's problems, your pain points, in a better, faster, or cheaper way. So these are all these components. When you combine, you're going to make sure that your product has an increased probability of success. You miss a step and that much error you introduce and probability for failure you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was a great answer. I have a question from Allison. She says, thank you. Your framework was very, very clear. I've engaged in several of the steps in my current position in a smaller company. I was unaware that I was already engaging in product management. The question is, what steps do you recommend for me to transition from a technical PM role to product management?
That's a great question. One thing that I would say, Alison, thank you for your comments. One thing that I would say is I have seen a lot of TPMs transition into a PM role. If you're a TPM, most likely, like you mentioned, you're already doing a lot of things that a product manager would do. I'm assuming this is like a digital role setup. What I would encourage, I have seen rather people do is work with your leadership, with your leader, your manager, your other PMs to identify opportunities where you can actually support an existing product and help with the launch. I think the beauty of being in a certain company, in a certain role, and looking to transition is you can always ask for the role, the responsibilities of the role you need, deliver on that ask in a very low risk stage, and show those results. So if you're able to kind of build that kind of, first of all, set expectations with your manager as part of your career growth, what you're interested in. Look for opportunities where you can actually do some pieces of it. Like it could be as a product manager, it could be, understanding your customer requirements. Maybe you can assist a product manager in doing that. Maybe there is a pain point that nobody is able to take up because, it's a low priority, issue or the pain point within your organization. And you dedicate extra time to kind of, create a product strategy there and propose a plan to execute that problem. And so, it's about taking that step that you already want to be in without you wearing that hat officially, and then showing the results to basically secure that commitment from leadership.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would add from my experience, in general, if you're a TPM, it's very likely that you may be working with somebody who's already playing that kind of product manager role within the same team. It's just that the person may be more customer facing, more kind of responsible for business metrics. And it's probably a lot easier for you to really, as Sarika said, raise your hand, help your PM, work with the person. I think it's within the same team, you can actually start to play that a little bit and understand and learn. And then internally, you can raise your hand, and when the right opportunity is there, you can actually move. I think if you're already a TPM, it's a relatively easier transition as long as you're willing to actually put your heads and raise your hands and say, hey, because you already are doing many things. It's just that there are some things where you just need to be much more deliberate about doing those things and be open about kind of asking for those opportunities.
Absolutely.
All right, so maybe we'll ask like one more question, Sarika, and then we close. What do you see? Like, where do you see engineering teams getting involved in the product launch? Like, do you have an advice on when and how you see the engineering teams or engineering leaders getting involved in the product launch?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I do want to very quickly respond. Alison, I'm happy to have a one-on-one conversation. You can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And same for anybody else. If there are follow-up questions after this, would be happy to kind of answer connect through LinkedIn. Coming back to your question about when should engineering be involved with product launch? So let's go back to the mental model of, at what point should product launch process start? The product launch should start really at the product design phase, at which point engineering is already involved at this point, right? So engineers are designing it, product manager, engineers, your researcher, designer, all of these people are actually already working right now together. Now, if you are an organization where you have a product marketing manager who's responsible for a launch, this is the time for you to engage. It's rather than for engineering to figure out when to be involved in launch, I would say whoever is wearing the hat of a product marketing manager is the person who would be involved with at the product design phase. And their process will start from there on, which means through the entire product development phase, or in fact, the product design phase. This is the time when this product marketing manager is going to bring that customer, that customer feedback through the research that they may have understood, through previous launch learnings that they may have had, through customer feedback on an existing product that they may have learned. And it is their job at this point to integrate that information with product, with design, and with engineering. So they have a they have the voice. They need to use and leverage their voice at this point. And throughout the engineering, design, and development phase, I would see this marketing manager to be completely integrated, because a lot of decisions, engineering constraints may be identified at that point, and decisions to cut down on features may have been made at this point. But as a marketing a launch leader, this person needs to make sure that they are very closely involved in all the trade-offs that are being made and all the product-related decisions that are made from there onwards. So they know whether whatever is going to be remaining of that product, does it still cater value to their customer in making that product better, faster, or cheaper for customers' needs.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think we're close here. Thank you so much, Sarika, for coming to our webinar and sharing. I think I would say for folks who are listening or watching, you can definitely connect to Sarika on LinkedIn, and I'm sure she'll be very happy to engage with you as needed. But thank you so much. It was an honor for us to kind of host you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and then just to reiterate, I'm sorry, guys. We will have this go live tomorrow. It will live indefinitely on our website. So all the slides that she presented, everything that you might need or want to run back to will be there for you to use. And I just want to say thank you again, Sarika. This is such a crucial point in product development and one of the hardest, a lot of people say, in product management. And you broke it down into some really simple steps to follow. So that's something that's hard to do that you made easier. So thank you. I appreciate that. And Diva, thank you as always for being an incredible host. All right. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everybody in the audience.